Hi everyone, this is JD, your gadget review friend. iPhone 6s is one iconic phone from 2015. Sure, we do have better looking iPhones today with slimmer bezels and bigger screen, but we can't deny that iPhone 6s is probably one of the best iPhones that was ever created. This is a review of iPhone 6s after 6 glorious years. Iconic. Hey, don't forget to subscribe, my friend. Let's go. The design of this phone is really iconic, the bar type with single home button. From the original iPhone, iPod, or iPads, it's the most iconic representation of Apple products. It was something that Android manufacturers tried to copy or emulate, and some of them got a little bit of success by cloning the look of this iPhone. It is super neat, minimalist, and that physical home button is so much easier to use compared to the swipe gestures that we have on the newer models. I don't know if you ever held an iPhone 6s, that aluminum back and frame feels like it will survive 100 years. Looking at the front, it is protected by Gorilla Glass, and every time you have this kind of protection, it gives you a peace of mind. It is not the hardest material in the world, it's still glass, but I think it can be bent a little bit. If you accidentally sit on your phone or put a little pressure on the front glass, it will take that small beating. The glass will also take few inches of drop to the floor given it's not a hard surface like rocks. The LCD panel is good, and 6 years ago, iPhone has the brightest LCD panel in the world. Samsung is making some really good AMOLED panels now, but it can't be compared 6 years ago where Apple iPhones dominate the screen department. And speaking of iconic, this phone still has a 3.5mm headphone jack. Time flies so fast that this is now an obsolete function. This feature and/or function is only offered now on budget phones. As soon as you go up to the flagship territory, it's gone. iPhone 6s is a true flagship phone with 3.5mm headphone jack. I think at this point only Sony is offering headphone jack on a flagship phone, and that is if you want to spend $2,000 on an Xperia phone. iPhone 6s won't cost you a fortune, it is dirt cheap. While we admire all these good features, iPhone 6s is not the fastest phone today. It is way below the performance of even the cheapest flagship phone you can find this year. But the performance, to be honest, is not so bad. I mean, if you're just a casual user that uses the phone for shopping, communicating, social media, and even photography, it is still an iPhone, This phone can do a lot of things, even heavy lifting, but just slower. Light games can still be played here, honestly. This is perfect for kids. So many good games on iOS. And if you want to buy a beater phone, a kid's phone, or a music player with a phone functionality, in case you broke your primary phone, this will be highly recommended. It might not be for everyone, but if you don't rely much on your phone for productivity, this is like the perfect phone for you. iPhone 6s will deliver the essential needs as a smartphone. The battery of this phone is okay. Our standard before is different than our standard now. I think in 2021 or the next year, phones should at least have 4000 mAh battery. Of course, that makes the phone bulkier and heavier. This only has 1715 mAh battery, which will give you 3 hours of screen on time or maybe less, depending on the task that you're thrown at it. I still remember 4 to 6 years ago, we buy battery cases for these iPhones because of this. Again, there's so much reliance on phone these days. It was different back then. We only use it to check emails, news, watch videos, music player, and posting on social media. Now it's like a productivity tool, a lot of games, office work, media and content creation work. Even the newer social media apps are super heavy and loaded now. It was different back then, and if you're still using the phone the way we used it 4 years ago, this is a doable and usable phone. The camera is okay, not really impressive, I wouldn't lie, but it was the best camera phone back then. Now we have night shots, HDR, and AI, but before it was just color saturation and maybe dual flash. This phone is capable of shooting some of the most interesting and beautiful shots. Light will play a role as you need more light on your shots. This phone is great for daylight. Anything you shot in the morning will be good. And speaking of good, how good it is to have 4K recording on this phone. The rear camera shoots 4K at 30 FPS, which at that time is incredible. Speaking of shooting, you can easily bring this anywhere and shoot because of its size. The phone is super light and compact. This phone only weighs 143 grams and only has 4.7-inch screen with 65% screen to body ratio. You can easily put this on your pocket. This phone also runs on iOS 15, and we all know that Apple is really good sending updates to their phones. I mean, 6 glorious years and still gets an iOS 15. Not the fastest phone running on iOS 15. You can feel a little stuttering here and there, occasional closing of apps, but still very reliable after 6 years of update. Apple A9 aged very well. iPhone 6s is 6 years old now, but it will stay as one of the Apple's most iconic phone. I remember the processor of iPhone 6s addressed a lot of issues with iPhone 6 performance, making this phone one of the most sought of phone when it was first released. 6 long years and this phone still received the latest iOS 15, which is a testament of how good and capable the internals of this phone. It is a cheap iPhone, it is well polished, a perfect fit, updated, and iconic. I will have more videos and comparison of this phone in the future, so stay tuned. And as always, thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in the next one.